Okay, in the final segment of our program, Guthrie.
Mr. Johnson, we have a more fundamental problem, And the fundamental problem we have is that the economic model that we've been using that for the last 60-odd years.
It's not longer, yes.
All right? And you're not going to be able to get blood on a stone.
Right.
It's going to be further compounded
Right.
in 2019
Right.
when the Bahamas joins the WTO.
Okay.
All right? So we have not, governments have been attempting,
Right.
the Pinning government, the England government, to diversify this economy.
Right.
And you're trying to increase the revenue base
Right.
from the same old model,
Right.
of which one of the sectors in that model,
Right.
the financial services sector,
Right.
has contracted.
All right, correct. Right.
All right? So now we're depending solely on tourism
Right.
and the aspect of our economy,
Right.
which has expanded,
Right.
Mr. Johnson, is the gaming sector.
All right. Right.
The gaming sector, the gaming people develop a new industry.
Right.
Which
Well, I wouldn't say they developed it. They institutionalized it.
It came out of the shadows.
Yeah, they
It came out
institutionalized.
of the
That's
shadows,
correct.
right?
Yeah, that's a better word.
And it created over 3,000 jobs.
That's correct, yes.
Right? And it provided a service
Right.
to the family islands,
Right.
which our banks haven't been doing it.
Right.
Right? And now they say they will contract.
Right. So, to the question on the gaming, there were several questions in that, so I'll take the gaming question on that. You know, if I look at England, Great Britain about 8 to 10 years ago, I don't remember which, created a new tax model. And all gaming operators who make over 13 million pounds, $17 million, are taxed at 50%. For us, it's $100 million, tax at 50%. So what's interesting to do is see what happened to Great Britain when they did that. In Great Britain, the amount of money gamed went from 8 billion pounds to 14 billion pounds. The gaming industry, to my view, it hasn't peaked yet. And what I mean by that is, if you look at their growth in their own numbers as they report, it has been unsubstantial. Putting a tax with it will slow down and curb the growth, but the industry is embedded in our Bahamian psyche, and Bahamians enjoy gaming, and they will continue to game. Will there be some correction? Absolutely, I'm certain of it there, but I would hazard a guess that over the medium and long term, that industry still hasn't hit its peak yet. And just like in Britain, where even with taxes of 50% on revenue, on the same gross gaming revenue over $17 million, that industry continue to grow and flourish. I think the gaming industry will continue to flourish. The broader economic point is very well made. We have had for 60 years, we've been not only having a two-pillar economy, some would say a one-pillar economy with tourism, but we have had a challenge to diversify that. So I think the challenge for the administration now and future administrations is to really find the formula to get away from it, because tourism has been so good to us. It has been an easy way, for lack of a better word, to be able to grow. Fortunately for us, and this is why I think the economic prognosis remains healthy, is that we do have an active pipeline of projects that are advancing, not just in the conceptual stage, but growing. We have the point that's already coming up out the ground. We have the wind project that is across from the OPM that will bring some more tourism activity in New Providence. In Grand Bahama on the west end, that is, if not finalized, very near finalization. The project in our Lucaya is somewhat stalled, but again, the prognosis is good there. In Harbor Island, there's activity. So the advantage that even within our one crop economy, our single export sector, at least in the medium term, that's healthy. But I accept your point, though, that we as economists and collectively, we really do have to redouble our efforts to find alternative ways to make things happen. The digital economy is there, the blue economy is there, and we have to move past paying lip service to those and really, really make some stuff happen. Mr. Johnson, a couple of quick questions because we're nearing the end. The web shops have played a very a pivotal role in the family islands.
Yes.
You're taxing Bahamians to transfer money and to game.
Right.
The transfer money has, at least speaking to the operators, has stopped because that it wasn't allowed for that, and so that has substantively, even before this tax, drawn to a close. But the hole in that part of the economy is still real, meaning that I accept your substantive point. There are a few operators that are now going into those communities, even the unbanked ones, and we still have the challenge of existing banks withdrawing. So that's part of the challenge, I think, that we as a government and those of us who work in government will have to figure out how do we do that better. But the gaming vehicle at deposits wasn't the right vehicle to allow for money transfers. You really want to bank those properly for money laundering concerns, yeah.
Well, you don't have banks in the islands, and so, the grandmothers and aunties and uncles in the family islands, they were able to get funds very easily from the capital.
Right, that's correct.
But in addition to that, you are charging people to game.
Yes.
This is the only place I know where people have to pay to game.
No, actually, if you go to Barbados, they charge VAT on your ticket taxes. It's paper-based, so you pay your VAT when you go to game.
Don't talk about Barbados. The economy is in trouble.
But in Jamaica,
because of bad policies.
Right? But no, I don't say that. What it intends to do is, because the nature of our games is that you deposit and you play, there were two options. We could have taken the view that, listen, every time somebody spins or somebody buys stuff, we charge VAT. That would have been a little cumbersome. And given that 60% of the activity or so is on spinning, that would have been impractical. So what the deposit tax is for gaming is their version of VAT. And just like when you go to, it's entertainment. When you go to the movies, you pay your VAT. When you go to dinner, you pay your VAT. When you go to game, your consumption tax is the deposit tax. So that's the proxy for VAT in the gaming industry.
I see. Final question, sir. Tell us, in the medium term, what is your prognostication for the economy of the Bahamas?
Right.
Between now and, say, mid-2019.
I think, well, that's a very near-term prognosis. So that's, for the immediate term, I think we may see some moderation of that growth estimate. So the government had predicted 2.4% growth. I think the impact of the tax may moderate that some, so we'll come in probably close to the 2% if I had to put a number on it. But I think what the medium term, meaning that once you get past the adjustment period for VAT, fortunately for us in the medium term, the new projects coming on stream will add some more impetus to our economy. My concern for the economy is what Godfrey's point is. I'm more concerned about the long-term prognosis. And I think so what our efforts have to be within the near term is really figuring out, as financial services continue to be under pressure, as tourism obviously goes through very, very susceptible to cyclical, really finding real ways to diversify the economy. That's my concern. And what also fuels that concern is the U.S., as we know, has primed their pump and run up their debt and deficit. As part of this, their expansion cycle. They've taken the opposite approach. To listen, we're going to cut the taxes and to grow the economy, which again, it's their policy discretion. I think what that means in the midterm, you will see a correction in the U.S. economy, and that's what we have to now be prepared to face into.
Mr. Johnson, thank you very much for being here today. You added some clarity to some issues from the government's perspective, and so we thank you so very much, sir.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to come back, and we won't wait another 15 years before we
please,
do this again.
Please, come back as often as you can.
Okay, thank you.
We always look for very good guests like yourself.
Thank
you so very much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with the Financial Secretary of the Bahamas, Marlon Johnson, and we have some interesting programming coming up after this. Thank you very much for listening to our program and watching Jones & Company. Good evening, everyone.